Bigger than capes.
Give me some sadness.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Oh, right.
Hello, welcome to Bigger Than Capes. 72? Question mark? I think this is the
Possibly.
72nd one of these. I'm Zach. You've already heard the voices of Angela and Matt, so hi, Will.
Voice, I just went,
Yeah,
It's your voice.
Oh, that counts, I guess.
there were noises made.
What's that TV show? Cause it can you hear my voice? No.
Oh,
that's
yes, it was.
Is it called that? It seems too strict. No, can you see my voice?
Can you see my voice? That was something.
Insane what people get paid for to make television.
What are
Anyway.
we talking about?
I think we were just introduced.
Can
like,
you see my
hi.
voice? Can you smell my touch?
Can you smell where I'm looking?
Yeah.
Can you smell my touch? Sounds like a soul album or
Either that or like a hair
Yeah.
metal.
Yes.
One.
Yeah.
Either way, really sexy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like maybe it could be like something a stripper danced to, like cherry pie or something.
But yeah, hi Zach. I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you?
I've been better. I mean, this has significantly warped my day. No, I'm good. We're here for reasons, I'm sure, as will become apparent. It's our July roundup, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's July.
It is.
It's still
It's
July.
July. We're rounding up comics.
Mhm.
Must be.
Yep.
All of those things.
Take
Do you
a
want to
minute.
do? I've got a little bit of news. Do you want me to do a little bit of news?
Yeah. Do you need a?
Let's do some news.
Yeah, I'll do a little bit of news. My first bit of news is that Square Enix have released the Manga Up app worldwide, which I'll be honest, I'd never heard of before just now, but apparently it's been downloaded 19 million times in Japan. It looks like it's going to have manga from some of their games like Final Fantasy, but as well as complete titles like Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist creator Hiromi Arakawa's latest work, Demons of the Shadow Realm.
Yes. Will it have? Do you know if it'll have the Heroic Legends of Arslan that they did?
The article I've ripped this off from didn't provide me a full list.
Like
I'm sure it's out there.
I'm kind of loath to support Square Enix,
Sure. I mean,
but
every company has their moralistic barriers.
yeah, and Square's being real bad and is doing a bunch of NFT shit.
Game companies in general are pretty bad, aren't they? But yes, they're definitely amongst them.
But that's cool still.
Yeah.
Talking of manga and news,
Yes.
In the same sentence.
there was a manga that released recently about a cool chicken, and then the chicken died, and I was sad. But then someone ripped someone's head and spinal column out and used it as a sword, and then turned their hand into a grenade, and that was very good. It's called Chainsaw Man, and it's back. It's good. It's still very good.
It's back and it's good.
And it's nice to be reading it weekly again, because I was reading it weekly previously, and I reread it maybe twice, and it's good enough to justify the reread. But it's nice just having it weekly and having the weight again to kind of look over it and go like, oh, this is cool, and appreciate it a bit more. But yeah,
I'm still about a third up to date, but it's still on my to read list.
Oh, well, you need to do it. There's going to be a real good anime soon.
Just read 40 chapters of Spy X Family. Give me a break.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Reading lots of stuff.
That episode will be coming
Soon.
Talking about things coming back. See, I can do it. I can
Nice.
do it too. Jeff Lemire is bringing Royal City back in 2022. It looks like it's just going to land as a complete volume. From the article I read, they just refer to it as Volume 2, so I don't think there are issues. But there's going to be a bit of a tease in the Image 30 Anniversary Anthology Issue 5. It's a series that's 4 issues in that I didn't know about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Rebellion aren't raising their prices for British readers. Good on
Thank
them.
God.
And I just thought worth mentioning, because I think we've done a couple of their comics before, but Behemoth Comics have changed their name now to Sumerian Comics, I think, after being purchased by another company called Sumerian. But if people did listen to our podcast and find Behemoth Comics they enjoyed, they're still out there, but they're under a different name.
We're not going to go back and edit over the name to change it now.
I'll just record it now. Sumerian Comics, and you can just edit that in when anybody says Behemoth.
Yeah,
just pop that in.
I'm not going to do that, but
it's really interesting though, because now that they're Sumerian Comics, they're going to release all of them in cuneiform. Zach just moved closer to his camera to look at me angrily.
Give you the stink eye.
Can't think why.
That's cool. Sorry, it took me a second. I was trying to remember whether the reason I didn't make that joke quicker was because I was trying to remember whether it was cuneiform or one of either Linear A or Linear B. But then I remembered that Linear A and Linear B were like Makarian Greek.
You are correct.
That old chestnut, when you can't remember the difference between...
ancient languages.
Sometimes I wonder why we don't have more listeners, and then it's clear to me.
I feel incredibly... I mean, you and Zach and Matt, you have the wrestling, and now apparently Matt and Angela have obscure dead languages. I feel like I'm out on a limb here. What have I got?
You can find something, Will.
Yeah. Oh, come on, we'll always have All Out Misery.
You've got a beard.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, I do have a beard. Yeah, you're right. I'm better than all of you.
Was the beard meant to connect Will to one of the others here?
No, it's just he was wondering what he had. And I said it was a thing I noticed.
I have some more news.
Now you've reminded me.
Oh, sorry. Please go on, Angela.
It's very brief.
Save it for yourself.
Yeah, it's very brief. It does not involve Will's beard, alas. But Valiant Entertainment have partnered up with Global
Acclaim
Comics.
Software.
Global Comics.
Okay.
That's MIX at the end, because,
cool.
So now Global Comics Gold members can enjoy more than 1,600 Valiant comics, apparently. I'm not sure why this has happened.
What is Global Comics?
I've looked into it. I still don't fully understand, to be honest.
I think they're trying to pick up a little bit where Comixology have slipped over and make a subscription-based sort of platform. Also, you can purchase from their platform, I think. But I think Valiant appeared to be their biggest get so far, I would say.
I find it ironic because Valiant did try that whole we have our own app thing for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have the app now, and it makes me sad.
I think everyone did. I remember Dark Horse had one, Image had one.
Yes.
They all had a crack at it, and none of them really.
Because Comixology just dominated at the time, and now Comixology is terrible, and everyone's apps have already gone out of business.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'd be delighted to go and buy from the source.
That's kind of the model, is that you both price everyone out or offer more and at a decent rate with a decent service, and then you lower quality once everyone else is gone.
Damn you, capitalism.
Yeah.
And Matt's telling us about this now when it's too late to do
I know. I'm sorry. Why didn't I ring the alarm bells previously?
You should have warned us, Matt. You should have warned us.
Well, I mean, I did never buy anything from Comixology for the podcast. Though sometimes I did make Zach and gave him money for it.
I'm not sure what argument that's meant to win, but
it's just me saying
Matt.
It's me
I didn't
saying
shoot him. I just loaded the gun and told him to do it.
It's like me saying that I've been pressing the silent alarm button. It's there, but it wasn't actually hooked up to anything either. And I thought it was working because it's a silent alarm, so of course I can't hear it.
All right.
That was the news.
Yeah, I feel that's my cue to jump in and talk about comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today it is I who goes first, and that book is Blink #1, written by Christopher Sabella, arted by Hayden Sherman, with colours from Nick Filardi, and it's from Oni Press. It's about Ren Brooker, who was 3 when she was found catatonic and covered in blood on the streets of New York. Since that day, she's been haunted by a childhood she can't remember. After decades of searching, Ren stumbles upon a cryptic website streaming multiple CCTV feeds from strange rooms in a ruined building, and something clicks, setting off hidden memories that lead her back to a place she's seen in lifelong nightmares. Hunting for answers... nearly tried to eat my own tongue. Hunting for answers, Ren breaks into the building, but instead finds herself entangled in the camera-filled dark mazes of a decaying social experiment known only as Blink. I hope you like how I read that blurb.
That was super blurb reading. Thank you.
Completely off the top of my head.
Yeah, here I thought you'd written your own words.
I mean, nope, didn't do that. So yeah, Blink appears to be this sort of mystery box comic about a obscured past and I don't want to use the word mysterious a second time, but I'm gonna. This mysterious building, social experiment, etc. I thought it was pretty good, this book.
Yeah, me too.
I think that it's probably, of the 4 we're looking at today, I think it's my favourite art. Pretty hands down, I think.
Interesting.
I think it's got a lot of really interesting panel work. I think because of that, I think it sort of stands out as the most memorable for me. I find more and more that art is a bigger draw than writers, and I think in the past I'd have said the other way around, but the books that stick with me are the ones where the art is better. I also think it just has a really intriguing setup, that sort of mystery box of what her past is and what it has to do with this cult-like webcam viewing old house that when they finally get into it seems to be full of bunk beds and canteen stuff, and people were living there in maybe some sort of cult but I just think that the setup's really intriguing. I think it's got a lot of sort of hooks in it, and a lot of mysteries that it wants to resolve. I have a few criticisms, but they're kind of quite niggly criticisms. I think some of the paneling, some of the kind of crazy paneling, sometimes happens kind of just cause in a moment that doesn't entirely warrant it. In particular, there's a bit where I think they're just making their way through the building. There's an interrogation room, and they're talking about what it was for, and that is kind of shattered into lots of different panels. Yeah, but it's quite a quiet and slow moment, and they're quite sort of action-paced panels. So I think sometimes it maybe gets carried away with its own sort of design work, but in other times I think it's really excellent how the paneling works. When she climbs through that little sort of brick window, and it's just a nearly black page, but it's sort of dusty and the bricks are falling through. I think that looks superb.
I agree with that.
That's me for now.
I just want to check, Will, did you mention the letterer?
I don't think I did mention the letterer. because I was reading it off the Image website. The Oni Press website.
Yeah, you see, this is my problem with many publishers' websites. They don't list the letterer. The letterer is important.
You're absolutely right. So the letterer is, well, here we go, Frank Savekovic. I'm fairly happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah. Frank to his friends.
And also, great job. I think the lettering's very decent in this.
Agreed. It is.
I was curious about this being your favourite art because Hayden Sherman also draws one of the other books we're talking about today.
And Nick Filardi colours one of the other books we're talking about today.
However, interestingly, Hayden Sherman's art in this is completely different to his art in the other book.
Isn't it just?
And Nick Filardi's colouring is also different.
It's almost like people have like range.
It's amazing, that, isn't it? Don't know how that's happened.
It is actually quite sort of hugely impressive between the two books that look absolutely nothing alike.
I agree.
Yes.
What did you think of it overall? I think, Matt.
So I was just interested to see, because when I was looking through the books that we had on offer this month, I saw this like partially pitched as being almost like a found footage horror comic, and I was all like, I'm not sure that we've seen much of that sort of idea of it yet. Like, I know that one of the characters in it is meant to be a kind of YouTube sort of urban exploration journalisty type, and he mentions that he wants to record all of their sort of exploration of this of like the old brownstone that they're going into. So, but I kind of want to see more done with the I feel like with the way that the paneling's being done, it could do some very interesting things with that format. And I'd just like to see more done to take advantage of the idea. Like, I really quite liked this, and like it's got a very good core premise. So, Zach, I'm going to reference a film I'm sure you'll remember. It's a bad horror film.
I feel attacked already.
Can you? Okay. If you think of bad horror film and think of website that shows cameras just in various places, what's the name of a film you think of?
I honestly don't know, but I feel like I'm going to know, and that's so much
Fear.com.
Oh shit! Okay, yeah, that was a thing.
I remembered that film existed when I was reading this, like in a way where I was like, oh, thank God, someone's actually like I mean, that film was ahead of its time in some ways as an idea, as like a premise, but it was just a dumb thing that I remembered when I was reading it. I was like, oh yeah, remember that Fear.com existed as a film. But yeah, no, it's good, and I quite like its depiction of like mental health issues. Like there's a really excellent moment between two of our characters where they're discussing kind of the life that they share together, and like Ren is basically asked, like, isn't kind of what we have enough for you? Isn't it? Doesn't this work? Like, and she says, like, it is enough. It's great. I love it, but I can't do it the way I am right now. I'm not right. Like I need to do things to fix it. It's like the situation isn't the problem. There's just something that I need to work on. Like as someone with like mental health issues and stuff, like it was a thing that felt very real. Sorry, Zach, Angela, do either of you have anything to add?
Angela, you want to go first? You want me to?
Shall I go first? Because I'm going to be the dissenting voice in this. Controversial. No, I agree with Will about the art, but I didn't really get on with it. I found it a bit confusing because, I don't know, the first, like the opening bit where she's having nightmares, it felt more of a psychological horror, which I guess it is, but by the end it was more mystery box. And I'm not a massive fan of the mystery box because there's a lot of the mystery box. J.J. Abrams have ruined the mystery box forever, frankly.
Yes.
And it just feels like, will the actual information we get, is it going to live up to the premise? Because I think it's an interesting premise and there's some interesting psychological stuff going on. The relationship stuff I found more interesting than most of the rest of it. But at the set, there was just something that I was like, with it. Just a bit, which, might just be that I bounced off it a little bit. I think it's very good. The lettering's good. Throwing that out there. It's not the best lettering. It's probably the worst lettering that we've got, actually, this month. But
I'm glad I read his name.
Gosh.
Jesus.
He's up
Sorry,
against
Frank.
two very good letterers. He's
Angela wanted you to name and shame them.
Name and shame letterers. But
set
it's
me up.
good work. It's just not at the level of the other two, and that's fine. 3. No, we've got 2. There's the same letterer on 2 of these today.
Yeah, they're still different books.
They're still different books, though. Yeah, but anyway, so I just didn't quite. It just didn't quite gel with me for whatever reason. But I did appreciate the art. I thought there was some stuff that felt like I'm just being clever with paneling because. But then other bits were really quite impactful, like you said, that bit where she breaks through the bricks and they're falling. That was really good.
Yes.
But yeah, just something about it just didn't. It's fine, and I appreciate it for what it is. But yeah, it's in it. That's me done. Carry on.
Well said. I can see where Angela's coming from with this one. I had mixed feelings. I thought we were focusing on the kind of. I was surprised at the end when we got some reveals. I thought we were kind of focusing on the mental health side of things. Also, I read another comic really recently in the Bebop, which was a Kickstarter anthology, which had a story in it basically just about a little girl and a sleep paralysis demon. And on the first 2 pages of this, I was like, wow, is this just going to be the long format version of that? It's not. I mean, it still could be. There's time, I guess, but it's not. But I see, I wasn't sure which direction this was going to go because it spends a lot of time developing Ren's character and her relationship with Nico. So then when she goes to meet Joel and break into an abandoned building, it's a little bit of it feels a little bit tacked on to the end here.
Yeah.
I still like it. I just wasn't sure. It feels a bit off balance as an issue in how much time is spent with one thing and then the other. But I think the character work is good, if a bit long. Also, I'm getting kind of was it Archive something? The Netflix show that
Archive 81 or
scared the bejeebus out of me. 81 sounds right. And I feel like we might go in a similar direction to that, if perhaps less scaring the bejeebus out of me. But who knows?
I can agree with a lot of your points there. It might just be suffering from sort of trade issue syndrome, that the way that the pacing might feel differently over the course of of a longer book. But there is kind of some of the plotting feels a bit too simple. Like you kind of led into this idea that she's been searching for this place for 10 years.
Mm.
And then kind of she sees a video and then knows where the address is, or
pretty much, yeah, like I traced the IP or some such.
So some bits like that were dealt with just through little bits of throwaway dialogue. You know, I think there's stronger storytelling than that. But as I say, I think the draw for me more and more is the art, and this was the one that stood out to me. And I think all of the ones today are kind of good, but not great. They've all got some problems. Anywho.
I just wanted to jump in to say, if you too are suffering from trade issue syndrome, you can donate to our cause over it. Biggerthancapes.com by going to our Ko-fi link. Sorry, I couldn't resist. It's just right there.
Kids all over the world are struggling by reading just one issue of a comic and not knowing what comes next.
They need to know about the trade.
With a small donation of just £2 a month.
You too
can put a trade into my hands, which I will then show at a child.
Maybe.
just read it to them.
Kids love sleep paralysis demons. That's like a well-known fact.
That's their favorite.
Yeah, they do. That's yeah.
But I
weirdest way of segueing in with the games.
Yeah, but let's roll with it. Let's roll with those punches.
Gotta take it where it comes. Is it me now? Is it my thing that I have to talk about?
I believe so.
Yeah.
All right. Buckle up. I'm going to read you the blurb from the publisher's website, and then I'm going to tell you what I think. So I'm talking about Rogues Gallery #1 from Image Comics. The stories by Hannah Rose May and Declan Shelvey. Hannah Rose May is also the writer. The line artist is Justin Mason. The colorist is Triona Farrell. Lettering is by Hassan Otsmane-Allahu. Design is by Phonographics. Production is by Erica Schnatz. And the editor is Heather Antos. And I've gone really deep into that production team, but here we are. According to Image, Rogues Gallery #1 is The Purge meets Scream in a home invasion thriller that follows disenfranchised TV superhero actress Maisie Wade as she is terrorized by an unhinged group of intruders cosplaying her day job's arch villains. If Maisie is going to survive the night, she'll need to be the hero she has come to despise. I don't think any of those words are what this book is.
Correct. None of them. Not a one.
All of those words made me confident enough I was going to review this for the website. And then reading this left me perplexed, which is why I've not written any words for the website. And when people wanted to do it for the podcast, I was like, sure, okay, maybe I'll verbalize dem words rather than typing them. This whole issue is basically like for super fans, I want to say, but perhaps that's not the right term. Just obsessively kind of bitching about a TV show and the main actress for quite a long time. Digs into stuff like kind of toxic fandoms and like, well, basically just toxic fans, I think is the main theme we get. So
it's Rogues Gators.
Yeah, kind of. And I'm okay with that as like I think that's something that you can deal with. I'm not sure if this book does deal with that. I also have really mixed feelings about all of this comic. I think some really good work has gone into like the kind of Red Rogues Gallery character world and the alternate superheroes of kind of alternate Superman, alternate wizard hero, I think time and work has gone into that. But I do think all 4 protagonists we have in Dodge, Yuri, Kyle, and Haley suck for completely different
that's
reasons.
the point, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even in their suckitude,
So,
I don't know why any of them would be friends with each other. I can't figure it out. It's like if we were all friends, which allegedly we are for, the sake of those listening at home, we're all friends. But it's like if 3 of us, let's say, it's like if me, Angela, and Matt were always a dick to Will, but Will kept coming back for more.
yeah.
What do you mean imagine?
It's like a toxic codependent relationship. They all enable each other in different ways.
Mm.
And so I think that this first issue is kind of the equivalent of the first issue or 2 of any Garth Ennis Punisher Max story arc, where it is establishing the people who we are going to see be destroyed across the rest of the series. It is letting us see that, like, see them be like not good people, like in difficult circumstances in this instance. But yeah, I maybe, like, I didn't love this, but I think I maybe liked it more than some of you, because I think it has the potential to be interesting, and I appreciate what it's trying to do this issue. And I, like, with regards to, like, it's clearly kind of based off of what happened to, like, what happened with, like, Brie Larson. And played Batgirl, like Batwoman, Ruby Rose, and stuff, like, with the kind of outrage farm, like, I don't use the term, like, fake geek people, like gamer gators, like comics gators, who were just like, there is a successful thing going on, it isn't exactly what I want, therefore it's bad, and I will harass this person and produce endless, like, clickbaity hate. Like, I think that that's almost like a revenge story, kind of involving, so that could be interesting. I don't know if this is going to be it, but I'm interested to see if the premise works.
I'm just not sure it knows what its premise is. It's my problem with it. Like, it starts off and you have, I mean, for starters, the description that Image have put out is nothing like the book that we get. So
I think it's going to be.
But I think the problem is we've spent all this. I think there's an interesting story in there to sort of look at, because fandom is the worst a lot of the time. There are good bits, but there is also a toxic underneath that runs through every fandom. And generally it's blokes, just going to point that out. It's not to say there aren't toxic women, because dear God, some of the female-orientated bits of fandom are vicious, horrible places, but still. There is an interesting story, I think, in looking at how fans interact with a source material and how that becomes toxic in this codependency thing. But for me, this wasn't that story. It's like you get the end where, you know, finally Maisie makes her entrance, but we know nothing about, the only thing we know about Maisie is through the prism of these 4 characters. And if moving forward, she's going to be our protagonist, which is fine. All we've had is basically an entire issue of people bad-mouthing her. I don't know who she is. She appears at the end.
Which is why I think that the next issue is going to be going back before this, going back before where we end, to see the same sort of period, but from her perspective.
Yeah, it could be. I've not seen what the solicitation for the next issue says, because what the solicitation for this issue said was nowhere near accurate. So I'm not 100% convinced this is going to do something. I mean, it was kind of interesting, like building up that whole bit about the different characters in the fictional TV show, and that was, you know, and it's not like the comics. That was more interesting, ultimately, I think, than let's dress up and go and attack the lead actress's house. And steal a comic that's been signed by someone because she doesn't deserve it. I think that's an interesting point, and I like the fact that fans are horrible people in this in a way, but Zach's right, they suck. They suck at being what they are. So, yeah, there's some interest in there, but it's just, it's not doing it for me, and I'm just confused by it. Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to string this out. I'm on pretty much the same page as everybody. I went through a real kind of roller coaster with this, where, as you say, the first few pages are this sort of superhero action thing. I really like the lettering in this, that everybody has their own font when they say their name. It's just a cool thing. But as I was reading it, I thought the script is kind of like shitty. But it looks pretty cool. Like, all the character designs are really good. It's really colourful. And then, like, the script is supposed to be shit. It's a joke. So then you move into the kind of the next bit, and the art after that remains decent throughout from that point. But I think you're right. You sort of lament the loss of that imaginary world a little bit for the remainder of the story. I do think the idea of toxic fandom is an interesting story to tell, but I also agree with Zach. Like, I think at the moment these feel like our main characters. I know it's not very often, but every now and again. I even think like they try and bake in a little sympathy for Kyle, who has like a bad dad and is kind of mistreated by some of the others. Nevertheless, I don't know sort of who to support or why I should care about any of these characters whatsoever, including Maisie. As Angela said, we just don't know anything about her. So, also the blurb says that she needs to survive the night. I mean, the last page makes it look like she is surviving
quite easily.
Very well, yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's a bit confused, and maybe it's a pacing issue. Maybe it could have been reordered a little bit to get a bit more of the core concept in, and perhaps you could fill in some of the TV and fandom stuff as you go through. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got to say.
I kind of agree with everyone in different ways. I agree with Matt that this could be the, hey, let's set up the, kind of not
people
great.
Who we're going to see be destroyed.
Yeah, let's set up the bad guys just to bury them. And we'll then shift to Maisie's focus, and maybe this is just an establishing issue that doesn't really lay out. I think it's the fact that the premise image of release, well, not the premise they've released, the premise image we're like pushing really doesn't fit with what the book that has come out, which happens, especially when the blurb we get, those 2 or 3 sentences could end up being the blurb on the back of the trade, in which case maybe that's incredibly accurate to what the trade will be. I agree with Will. I think the art is really good. I think the character designs, particularly for the superheroes that we briefly see, are really strong. Jackdaw is actually pretty cool with the weird plague Doctor meets Batman image is kind of stupid but brilliant in a way.
Although he never says it, I always imagine him between every sort of third word just going "Caw!"
I can see that. It's within reason, I think. Somehow. It's a strange first issue in that, yeah, I think Matt is probably right in where this will go from here. But I don't particularly think this issue endears us to Maisie if she is going to be the protagonist, or to Dodge, Yuri, Kyle, Haley, or Slink if they're going to be.
I mean, to be fair, with regards to like the Maisie character, all that we really know about her is through the lens of these
bad
people.
Fans.
Yes,
that's very true. And I'm inclined to say that will shift next issue.
Yeah, but this could have done with being like an OGN or something.
Yes, just so you had everything in one collection. And even if it was cutting back and forth between the 4 characters and Maisie, so we saw both sides simultaneously, I think might have helped a little bit. But I don't know. Also in the art, I thought it was good. There was some good details, like having the dad have a constant like t-shirt tan thing going on, which is kind of
it was quite funny.
it doesn't really add anything, but the fact that you can clearly see that he's always in shorts and a t-shirt, I thought was a good detail. But that whole thing of the Kyle's dad sucks, I felt very much like, this is always the narrative. No, not always the narrative, but there is always a comic book coming out with and my dad sucks because
person is bad because of bad parents.
Yeah.
And Kyle doesn't start this bad, which kind of makes this a little bit weird.
Flips, doesn't he?
And quite quickly as well.
Yeah, because I thought Kyle was going to be like almost the protagonist to the protagonists. Like he was going to be, like they bullied him and all the rest of it. And he was like, oh, I'm going to take revenge on them. I'm going to take revenge on everyone. But no, because he just doesn't. He just decides, sod it. These people who bully me and make fun of me and are horrible to me, I am just going to, get in with them and I'm going to go and do whatever they want.
Well, he kind of takes control of the situation, even, and kind of seems to be the one now running it.
Which is not necessarily a good character progression.
No.
But it is
terrible.
one, I guess. Yeah.
I also cannot figure out how old any of these characters are.
Well, one of them, I can't remember.
One of them's been to Afghanistan and back.
Yeah.
Dodge, I think.
Yeah, Dodge has been to Afghanistan. So I assume he joined up at like 18. So he's got to be probably his early 20s, maybe, possibly.
I guess. I don't know. It's a weird vibe. And
it's odd. It's very odd.
Yeah. I also have real questions about stuff like the crypto ray and how quickly we got to NFTs. And I know it's very now, but I also...
There's a lot of NFT references in comics of late, and it's not going to age well.
It feels like when Brian Michael Bendis kept putting people in like Korn t-shirts and Korn are dope, sure, but still. Or
it's
like
best not to date yourself.
Yeah, if you don't need to put Freddie Prinze Jr. in your comic, don't. I can't remember what that is. Was that Ultimates where Betty Ross is on a date with Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Yes.
Wow, I'm glad that's taking up space in my brain.
And then the Hulk goes and eats people because Mark Miller.
Yes.
Well, if your girlfriend, not even your girlfriend. If a woman goes on a date with a
WWE creative, with WWE Creative's own Freddie Prinze Jr.,
then you're entitled to eat some people.
Then cannibalism is your only.
As long as you do it in one bite, otherwise it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to cut this or not. I don't know if this is funny or just surreal.
I
just want to summarize. Straight swallow is okay. Chewing or biting is a no-go. Just so I understand.
That might be a good message. It limits people who might be on the verge of cannibalism. If they're thinking, right, if I can't swallow people whole, then it doesn't count, then I shouldn't be doing it.
Intervention. This is just an intervention for those people who've thought about cannibalism.
You've got to work for your cannibalism. For your long
either that or people will just start eating babies.
Well, babies are delicious, apparently.
And eat much easier to swallow.
Yeah, exactly. They're smaller.
Anyway, we can probably talk about a different book. We've got that one about
you could put them on in like a dehydrator.
So they shrink.
Zach just
shrivel
zoomed
up.
away from the camera.
I honestly have no control over what Matt sees. I don't know if I'm zooming or not. I don't know what I'm doing.
You like backed away rapidly from me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, no, that makes sense." As I said,
even in a virtual space.
In a virtual space, I am constantly backing away from Matt.
Says a lot. It's because together mode has been enabled for this call. That's
oh right, I'm not in together mode. It's just
it's
just you suckers.
Anyway.
So next book.
Yes, I'm gonna talk about Above Snakes, number 1. Written by Sean Lewis, with art by Hayden Sherman, lettering by Hassan Otsmane Elhau, and it's from Image. So it's a Western revenge story following Dirt, a cowboy whose wife and family were all killed, his wife Dorothea, and he is out for revenge. He is guided in his revenge by a spirit of vengeance, justice, blood, called Speck, who is like maybe a vulture.
Yeah.
There's a bit in this that I quite like where it plays with the revenge story trope that makes up so many Westerns, where it basically has Dirt show up in town and go to a bar, and the bar is full of other people who are out on revenge missions, and they even have a term for each other, like as blood runners. And so basically it's it's a bar full of protagonists, but some of them are kind of fake protagonists in that they'll never get to where they think they want to go. And some of them are kind of the real deal, who are chasing it down and actively kind of doing it like Dirt and like Annie. It's quite a cool looking little book as well. The colours that are used are like a mixture of very like muted tones with very high colours that stand out against them. Like Speck is always like golden and brown against whatever he's standing against, and stands out wonderfully. Like Dirt wears all black except for this high pink shirt that kind of almost matches at points his skin tone even. Like, and you can kind of tell where a person is, even in like these busy action scenes, by color, what color stands out on them. Yeah, it's a pretty fun, well, I say fun, but it's a pretty solid first issue of hyper-violent revenge fantasy Western stuff with this kind of mystical, fantastical elements that we don't really understand yet. It seems to know, like, Speck actually seems to know things as well, but it might just be information that Dirt already had. As like, there's a point where the person who he's after this issue, who seemingly he's never met before, actually calls him by name after Dirt kind of had to be told a description of the guy down to what he smelt like, everything by spec. So I'm expecting like some interesting twists with the story because of that, and just kind of exploring his mental state with it and kind of how real the fantastical elements are.
It's a good book. I like a good revenge western. And I also like a book where you've got kind of like a weird, odd moral compass almost.
Yes.
Because in Barbaric you've got Owen has Axe, who is really into the bloods and the killings. And Spec reminded me quite a bit of Axe. Like, yeah, it'd be fine. I'll go feast on the blood and all the rest of it. And he was my favourite character because who wouldn't want a sort of weird mystical vulture that feeds on blood and sends people on revenge missions? It was really interesting. I liked the twist as well with the sort of the woman with the fire. That was interesting. It wasn't like a straight up go to this town, kill this guy, and you'll move on kind of deal. There was a lot more going on to it than that. The colouring's interesting. I always like it when people just use like big blocks of colour. They don't like go into huge detail. It's just like, yeah, this panel's going to be like green and this one's going to be like pink. I like it when they do that. Best lettering of any this month. Going to throw that out there. I
liked Spec's lettering.
It's very good lettering. So good colouring, good lettering. It's just really good. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting take on the Western. And yeah, I don't have much more to say aside from 'twas good, yes. It's me done.
Yeah, I also think this is a really good book. I agree with a lot of what you said there, Angela. Always a sucker for a good revenge story, particularly one set in the West. The colouring is, of course, really cool. Lots of like fuchsias and blues. It reminded me of at least the covers, if not the interiors, of like Paper Girls.
Yeah,
it's a similar set of colours. I think funny you mention Barbaric, because the connective tissue is what's it called, Zach? What's the book that Michael Moretti and Hayden Sherman worked on together? Wasted Space.
Wasted Space, yeah, that's in my notes. I'm just not looking at them.
I think that this art is surprising that Blink is also Hayden Sherman, because as we mentioned earlier, they're really different, and this art is much more like his Wasted Space art, but I think it's more refined than
definitely, yeah,
Wasted Space. Like, I think it is a bit more confident and more consistent throughout. I still just prefer the other art ultimately, and but I think the kind of composition of the art in this is really good. There's a great bit with a reflection and a knife, and there's a speech bubble within the reflection.
Hey, that was my line.
Well, I nicked it.
I'd forgotten how cool that bit is.
Yeah.
A bit where he stamps on a floorboard and it smashes someone in the chin.
Yeah.
The sort of the almost like what you might consider the camera work if it were a film, like the choice of shot.
The cinematography.
It's exactly that. I think is great. I think the colouring is great. I kind of like the idea. I don't remember it being settled one way or the other, but I kind of like the idea that Spec is completely in his head.
I think he is.
Rather than being, actually sort of supernatural. Or I like the idea that it could bounce between them, because he tells him about, is it Cobber?
Yes.
But he says, oh, I know Cobber. So you can already see, like, it might just be something from deep in his own psyche, like telling him to go.
That he can't express himself whilst still feeling like a good person.
Yeah, but also I kind of like the idea that it might hint that it could genuinely be supernatural, and you perhaps bounce between those 2 points. I think if I was going to be like super picky, it doesn't really set up what the rest of the story is going to be about, other than continuing to sort of track down the Above Snakes gang. like it feels like a bit of a sort of a one-shot issue. Which
it
in some ways
like
works.
It could be one and done almost.
Yeah, in some ways works really well because it's a satisfying first issue. But also, is it going to be like one-offs until he kills the gang, or is that it's hard to see exactly what the next sort of plot point's going to be. But it's pretty nitpicky to throw that in. But everything deserves some criticism.
Yeah, fair. Will has stolen a lot of the words I was going to say. I think this is a lot more refined than Wasted Space, but kind of benefits from it. I think Wasted Space kind of leans into how stylized the art is, whereas this is stylized in a different way, and the coloring seems to carry a lot of weight here. I like how when Dirt walks into town, we kind of start getting everything more purpley and blues and pinks and more twilighty, which feels very like in keeping with the kind of raid at sundown western kind of thing, which is really nice. I don't know. I wasn't sure with this if we were going to get more of an anthology type thing, especially when we're introduced to Dr. Toombs on the first page, who's kind of playing narrator, who then immediately stops playing narrator, I think. Unless I missed something, he narrates for like 2-3 pages and then...
Yeah, and then he just disappears.
It's all from Dirt's point of view. He gets mentioned in the town, and he gets mentioned in...
I'm not sure who the last lot of narration's supposed to be, because it sounds like him, but he also starts it with, Dr. Toombs said you were going to see the love story. So it seems unlikely to say that about himself, and yet it's in, but it looks like it should be from him. So I don't know who that's supposed to be.
I mean, he could be referring to himself in the third person, I guess.
We've all done it. There's no shame in it.
Will does it all the time.
But I think art and lettering and colouring is all really strong in this one. I like that Hassan has resisted the thing that annoys me most in comic book lettering, and that the narration boxes are like typed rather than being handwritten.
Like calligraphy.
Which never fails to annoy me, so I'm glad that he went in a different direction with that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I also like that all the kind of narration boxes have got that kind of primary school, I've made myself a treasure map, tea-stained paper aesthetic. But I think this is pretty solid in kind of every aspect. I think writing and kind of story-wise, it's got that kind of Kyle Starks revenge narrative kind of going on. I'm sure Matt, if I could tell if he was here or frozen, would... He's moving.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't think it's quite as immediately overblown as Kyle Starks would be.
No. But to be fair, when we read I Hate This Place...
Yes.
Yeah, like that sort of type of Kyle Starks.
Yeah, true. He's a little bit more restrained, and I think that's... kind of, I think you can feel his influence on this kind of story. Even in the art, I think there's a little bit of Kyle Stark's vibe to it at times. But I guess when you draw and write your own book, Kyle Starks has a very specific style that if you're influenced by the writing, you're probably influenced by the art. But I don't know. I like that this feels kind of classic Western, but also they've kind of picked up the pace. I think a lot of Western stories tend to be glacial because that's how all Westerns tend to build like suspense, is by being very slow to begin with, and then everything happens all at once. So this is more condensed than that, but I guess like 30 pages, 20 something pages kind of limits how much you can spend with people waiting for a train. Or I can't remember which Western film that's from. I just know that in media studies, I was forced to watch a Western where the first 15 minutes is a man waiting for a train.
That sounds like Once Upon a Time in the West, I think. That has a very long opening scene at a train station. Then somebody comes and kills them all.
Yes, that might be the one. Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in the West. Somebody plays it. Well, it's got Henry Fonda
Hmm.
and Charles Bronson.
Classic.
Yes. I do think as well with this, Spec gives me similar vibes to, can't remember the character's name, but in Coffin Bound, Izzy is kind of followed around by this kind of person-sized skeletal buzzard vulture thing that's kind of not as helpful as Spec, but is kind of like more of a, oh, you're gonna die.
It's a bit of a trope of comics, but I always love a little kind of mascotty character.
Yeah, and I think Spec's a pretty good one.
They can be cute or they can be gross, but generally, as long as they're kind of funny or delightful in some way.
I'm not sure Spec is particularly funny or gross. I think he's just, or cute. He's just kind of...
I mean, he's kind of cute.
Maybe he falls into the rad category.
Yes.
It's the badass version.
The often
cute
fabled rad category.
Yeah.
I think that's all I have to add. Most of my contribution here is agreement.
Yay!
I think it is. I think you said it is like it's all round high quality. I think on every aspect.
Yeah. So I guess that means it's Angela and it's Valiant.
Yeah, sorry. Oh dear. I'll try and keep it shortish, but it's a Valiant book, so I make no promises. It is the Book of Shadows, #1. The writer is Cullen Bunn. The artist is Vicente Cifuentes. The colorist is Nick Filardi. You may remember him from a book we've discussed earlier. And the letterer is Dave Sharp. Okay, so are you sitting comfortably? Right. Book of Shadows. Cullen Bunn did a run of Shadow Man very, very recently that finished. And this kind of picks up where his run of Shadow Man ended. So we had the Deadside War. During the Deadside War, we had the creation of Persephone, who is basically the Deadside in mortal form. Handily, there are some trading card pictures at the beginning of this book to explain who the hell she is. But that's where she comes from. Also, in the Deadside War, Punk Mambo was involved. She doesn't trust Persephone one bit, but Shadow Man's trying to rehabilitate her. So there's a nice little fair in a town that gets attacked by hellhounds who look suitably gross and disgusting. So they're like werewolves, but with added rocks, which is always the way you should do it. Shadow Man and Persephone come on in to, do some slicing and dicing. And then Punk Mambo shows up with Dr. Mirage, who's been MIA from Valiant for some while now. So it's good to know that she's still going. And she's like, yeah, these people are gone. There's like no souls.
It's not been that long.
It feels long, Zach. When was her last solo?
2019, 2020, Max Visagia?
Yeah, that's 3 years. We've moved on. 3 years is a long time.
Yeah, but in Valiant time, that's only like 25 minutes because
it doesn't work. Either way, it feels like it's been a long time. But they rock up. They've also employed Gilad the Eternal Warrior, who also hasn't been around for a couple of years now. Although, yeah, when did he last appear, Zach? Go on.
I legitimately don't know. I do know. It was Ninjak?
Yes.
Were they the Undying guy?
Undying monk.
Got shafted.
Yeah.
No, not the monk.
The seven
with the mismatched eyes guy.
Silk.
Okay,
No.
you're all going way further back than me. Like Ninja K. He was in Ninja K.
Oh, he was in Ninja K.
With the villain with the
Ninjak,
mismatched
though,
eyes. It is Ninjak. With the mismatched eyes guy.
Ninjak with a colon in it, damn it.
They were setting up like he was going to be a big bad for Eternal Warrior, and then he was a big bad for like 3 issues.
And then he disappeared.
Yes.
Point being, we've not had the Eternal Warrior here for a while. Back to where we were. he's been fighting Exarch Fane, who is actually a new creation for this book. But you wouldn't have guessed it from the way he's introduced. Just going to call that. I like it purely because I get to see Shadow Man and Punk Mambo and Dr. Mirage and the Eternal Warrior. Persephone, I can kind of take a leave at the moment. But I get to see, some Valiant characters interact in an interesting way. I think there are some nice bits of art. The colouring really does bring the art out. Having read this in black and white, thank you, Valiant, for that, by the way. It was nice to get an advanced preview, but still, it was in black and white. The colouring actually does add stuff. So the whole bit where the Dead Side monsters sort of come in and attack the Hellhounds, that bit of colouring, I really liked that bit. I realise it's probably not the most well written because it is kind of, it's a team up book, and those are always awkward the first issue because you have to introduce everyone like, hey everyone, this is Shadow Man, Jack Boniface, this is what he's been doing recently. Here's Punk Mambo, this is what she does. Here's Dr. Mirage, she sees dead people. It's kind of a bit like that in that you have to introduce everyone and try and establish people, and then there's a big bad, and it does kind of feel that Gilad's sort of out on his own a little bit because Punk Mambo is just like, yeah, me and Dr. Mirage, we hired him to go and track some stuff down. I realise that sounds terrible, but that's kind of, yeah. So that's where it goes. So he's kind of a little bit removed from it, but he will be fine. Issue 2, we've seen the previews. We all know that they're all going to get involved. It was really obvious who was the Book of Shadows is under the control of Exarch Fane, which is a really good name, by the way.
Yeah, Exarch Fane, is really good, yeah. Though he does look like a Cenobite. Yes,
but hey ho, rip off the good stuff. But yeah, I am aware. I'd be interested to know because I've read all of Cullen Bunn's Shadow Man. I'd be interested for those of you here who haven't. I don't know why you haven't, but I'm assuming some of you haven't. Shockingly. But yeah, I like it. I mean, we all know I'm predisposed to like it because it's Valiant and I am contractually obligated by the devil to, like it or else. But yes, what do other people think? Because I'm terribly biased.
I just don't know if I like Shadow Man.
I don't think anyone knows, but you should.
I like Cullen Bunn, generally. Love the Sixth Gun. Love, a bunch of his other earlier, stuff prior to that. I just don't know if I like Shadow Man at all. And I feel like I'm just missing something. This was okay. Similar to Angela, I had Valiant's putting out a book kind of feeling, but and there were bits that I kind of liked where it was just I enjoyed the opening bit where it was saying about everything constantly goes to shit here all the time, but it's also the sort of place that people pull each other through. They have community, all this sort of stuff, and then everything just goes to shit horribly in a way that community can't really help in the instant. So, there were bits of writing I really liked, but Shadow Man, I do I like just about everyone in this book, and I like everyone on this book, but I kind of left a bit ambivalent, I suppose.
Are you aware that Jack Boniface is also a jazz saxophonist?
Yes.
See, I thought that might just swing you.
He's not a mummy though, so he's not a sax mummy.
He's not a sax mummy. There is only one.
I think there is a problem in that we've had some good we haven't had a definitive Shadow Man run.
No.
I think that is the problem. We've had one for Quantum and Woody, Archer and Armstrong. I mean, Eternal Warrior, I would argue, maybe. So I think that's one of the problems is that he hasn't had a solid I mean, Cullen Bunn's run is good, but it's not definitive. And that's the problem, is the character doesn't have a solid definitive run yet.
Like, hopefully this gets to a place where I really like it. I really want it to.
I think this book suffers from being an extension to an existing run. And despite, as you pointed out, Angela, the little sort of playing cards at the beginning, and I think the end of the book has a bit of a character, sort of little character blurb as well. But despite that, it feels like there are things missing. As you mentioned, with the bad guy who does have a great name, ex-Archfane. The way it's written made me think that was a character that I've missed a particular storyline from. And then with Persephone, she is a character that I've missed the storyline from. And I think that ultimately just slightly hampers my enjoyment of the book. Like my dedication to Valiant has waned somewhat. So I've not kept up with the Shadow Man stuff or the Deadside War, etc. I think it's got decent, what's becoming more and more like Valiant style art. I think Valiant are finding, much like sort of DC and Marvel, have it's not identical, but kind of a broad strokes art style that works for their stuff. And I think this is a perfectly good example of it. Angela, you're right about the colours. Like, I think they make it really vivid. And there is a preview of the second issue in black and white, and it's kind of tough to read. It's clearly not made to be a black and white book. Some of the writing is a bit exposition-y. There's a bit where, like, his what's it called? His scythe gets thrown away.
Oh yeah.
And he just says, the scythe turns to ravens, and it returns to me. I thought, like,
that was just the weirdest.
Don't panic, guys. It'll come back in the form of ravens.
When you feel like that's something that you can show me, that feels like something that the art can do the work there. You don't have to have a man saying, and burst into ravens, and now to me. So some bits like that I thought were a little bit odd. But I think the monster design is pretty cool, both of the werewolf things and when Persephone summons just horrors from the beyond, and it's all eyes and teeth. Like, I think there's a sort of strange dragon that has them in a cage that's also a very cool design. So there are bits about it I think are very good. One thing I noticed, not bad child faces.
Yes. They don't just look like terrifying tiny adults.
No, they look like children, and I think that is an accomplishment worth pointing out.
Worth $3.99.
Worth your money. There are a few panels I don't really know what happens. There's a bit where Shadow Man is in the jaws of a werewolf. Then there's a panel with some sound effects, and then he's not. And I don't know what's supposed to have happened between those two moments.
Obviously, he escaped.
I had the same thing when we were talking about the exposition with the scythe stuff. I had to read that several times to realise that, like, the werewolf throws away. Like, that middle panel is the werewolf throwing it away in its mouth.
So, I mean, it's the minority. In the most case, I think the art is absolutely serviceable and perfectly clear. Every now and again, there was a couple of bits where I just thought, I'm not quite sure what's happened there. I don't remember Punk Mambo getting, like, a name.
She's always had a name. She just doesn't use it.
Yeah. Because why would you?
Does it get introduced? Because I don't remember her being referred to that in any of the kind of ninja stuff she's introduced in.
Is it not Punk Mambo Zero?
Yes, it is.
I might not have read Punk Mambo Zero, but there you go. That's nice. It's nice that she's got a name.
It's in her solo stuff.
From a writing perspective, I don't mind I think the narrative callback is quite good. Where they were talking about the beginning, as Matt said, about the town that goes to shit, and it ends with they didn't know what hit them, and then uses that narrative again, now referring to our little cabal of heroes. I think that's quite a sort of fun little callback. But Yeah, I think it struggles as one for new readers. I think if this was your first step into Valiant, it'd be pretty confusing, even with those character profiles.
Yeah, if it was my first step into Valiant, I'd be very confused because I'd have opened up the first issue of the 2012 Archer and Armstrong and been like, wait, what's this book? Why is Shadow Man in it? Who's Punk Mambo?
Zach?
I don't think this is that bad a jumping on point. I think one of the first Valiant things I read was The Valiant, and that's kind of a similar setup to this, where just shit is happening and good luck. Yeah. So I think you're pretty safe with just throwing a lot of characters at people. Yeah. That is how most people do get into most.
Yeah, I guess
comics.
In the same way that like people talk about Hush as like used to be like Hush isn't a good book. But it's a book.
It's a lot of people's first Batman book.
Yeah, because it has everyone in it.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Equally, I know so many people who started Marvel with Civil War, and if you need to know who Robot Thor is, and
I mean Clone Thor,
or whoever Giant Man is at that point, I can't remember his name. He gets torn in half, and it's
well, there's Black Goliath who dies.
Black Goliath was killed by Thor. There's it's
let's not.
Cassie Lang.
Let's just.
It was a terrible time.
It's Scott Lang. Is it Scott Lang's Giant Man at the time?
No, it's
back to old wife beater in it.
No.
Is it not Hank?
Is it I think it's Goliath that I was talking about.
Yeah,
because that was Bill
Foster.
Thank you, sir.
Is that actually his name? That was a guess.
I think it is Bill Foster.
True.
Yeah,
I think
you're
right.
You're right.
So
anyway,
I think a lot of people could jump on at this and wouldn't really care. People pick up event books all the time. Firstly, first page. I like the detail that the kid is getting Exo Manowar face paint.
Yeah,
agreed. That is good.
Yes, that was that gave me a smile.
It's one of those brief acknowledgements that Valiant is all in the same world, so people know who Exo is. And we've had mentioned in previous Valiant books about how, superheroes are super famous because they're superheroes. And I think that's something that Valiant come back to occasionally, but often forget about. I'm just going to hit you with the bullet point questions I've got written down. Does Punk Mambo make her own pin badges that have her own name on? In which case, does Punk Mambo wear her own merch? And what?
I assume she does.
Yeah.
I assume as part of voodoo magic rituals, pin badges are a vital component, and therefore any voodoo priestess worth her salt has pin badges.
A collection of enamel pins.
She had a Punk Mambo badge on like the cover of Punk Mambo Zero, and I was willing to accept it.
Did.
Making it like part of her character, it's
canon now.
Just seems weird. I don't know. I would like to see Punk Mambo actually be more punk. I think that's one of my things here. She looks punk, sure, but
She smokes though, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Do you think they've pulled away?
She smokes what looks like a jazz cigarette.
Yeah, a bit of the devil's lettuce.
Cigarette.
But does she still do magic by like sniffing glue? Because that was her old jam.
That was a thing at one point. Yeah, I don't know. That's not really been.
She's definitely not sniffed glue recently.
That is
she
a shame.
She wasn't doing that in the Dead Side War.
I think one of the problems I have with Punk Mambo is when she was this fleeting appearance in Shadow Man and had one issue that was her own, I think I liked her more. I think I almost get too much Punk Mambo now. And there's a value to the super cool punk woman being in a kind of occasional presence rather than...
I would agree with that. I think she's a cool concept, but the more you delve into her, the more that concept seems a little bit shallow in parts.
Yeah, the more they do with her, the more it's like, oh, you just thought it would be cool if she was a punk that did voodoo. Okay, sure. to return to Will's point that we talk as if Fane is a recurring villain, and he isn't. He is a recurring villain. He was the villain in Hellboy 2. He's just not Eternal Warrior's returning villain. But as soon as he pops up with his little crown,
he was also in all of the Hellraiser series.
Yeah, really, they should be called, the Book of Hell or something. And we'll.
What was the Hellraiser one that was in space?
Was that Hellraiser X?
Hellraiser in space.
I honestly don't know, but I've not seen all the Hellraisers, so that might be part
Jason
of Jason
X. I don't remember.
Bloodline.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Hellraiser 4 Bloodline.
This is
We're all poorer for knowing that now.
We are.
Which one's Hell on Earth? That's Hellraiser 3.
To go back to Fane for just a sec, I do like that he seems to know he's the bad guy. We rarely get that at the moment. Everyone seems to think that they're doing the wrong things for the right reasons. Him, when he's just like, I just get better and worse. Terrible, just awful. But I think the idea that this guy's like, oh man, I suck. There's a novelty to it that I'm like, yeah. He just knows he's the bad guy, and I'll take it. It's a little
self-awareness.
Bit weird,
his basic design's cool. His sort of floaty chains, his burning book for some reason.
And I hear
the Book of Shadow.
And I hear that kids love chains.
So just I was looking at this, and important update. There's a Hellraiser film coming out this year. Apparently, yeah.
Are you sure we're not asleep and this is the nightmare?
Yeah.
So yeah, there we go. Hellraiser update over.
To go back to Book of Shadows for just a minute. I think in terms of art, colouring, lettering, it is really solid. I agree with Will. It's Valiant books are tending to look a certain way. I mean, they have since 2012. There's been a certain on and off house style, and I think this is very much that. I would like to see characters change up a little bit more. I feel like we're seeing characters so infrequently that Gilad always looks the same, and Dr. Mirage can stop wearing the jumpsuit anytime she wants.
It's slimming. A girl's got to look after herself.
It's part of her brand.
Yeah, to be fair, she has got the whole TV stuff.
Yeah, there was a branding thing, at one point, true. But it's weird to me that Gilad basically always wears the same outfit or a variation thereof, whereas Shadow Man gets redesigned every time there's a new Shadow Man run.
Every week.
But I mean, that tends to be his family trait, though. Like, Armstrong doesn't change up his outfit much, although we know that he changes his clothes.
Do you remember?
He doesn't change his outfit. I don't know, Ivar does, but that's because of the nature of time travel.
Indeed.
Angela, you'll know, I might be misremembering this, but I think that Gilad's design in Archer and Armstrong Volume 2 is quite a bit different.
It is. He has a full jumpsuit type thing.
Yeah.
He still has the red barrel things.
He still has it's closer. The one in Archer and Armstrong is closer, I think, to the 90s weird jumpsuit.
I see, right.
He still has the cape, though, I think.
He still has the cape.
Some kind of cloak thing.
You always have to have a cloak, because then you're mysterious.
But at some point, we decided it was chest and shoulder armor. And
not just a steel bra.
Those are the important bits that you have to look after.
When you're immortal, you think you might as well just do it naked, right?
But his immortality is kind of a weird one anyway.
He has to choose to come back.
He has to choose to come back. He can't. He actually kind of dies, and then he has to choose to come back, and he has to fight his way back.
I don't think that stands against my naked argument. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Okay. I mean, he might turn up in the afterlife naked then, and his kids don't want to see that.
Stupid dead kids.
I don't dislike this. I like the idea that we're going to have a supernatural team up. I think Valiant has been crying out for team books ever since that volume 2 of Ninja K, where we had that little team up for a little bit to go to Mexico City, which didn't really involve any of these characters, did it?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, weird. It's nice to see a kind of group team book. I would like to think that maybe there'll be a continuation after this of, you know, I don't know, Supernatural Unity. Something like that.
I would buy that.
We probably won't get that because I've just asked for it. So, you know, Valiant will be listening and will decide I'm not having it. One of my concerns with this is that I've been burnt before.
Yeah.
And what was the book with Babel? What was Babel's story?
Oh, God, was that when we had with Magpie and all of that jazz?
Yeah, could have been awesome. That. What was it?
Oh, I wonder. It wasn't the Dead Side War. It was Andy Diggle's Incursion. Was it? No, it was before.
No, it was
Incursion.
before
I don't think it was Incursion. I think
It
he
was
had
before
Dead Side in
Incursion.
the title.
It could have had Dead
Ninjak
Side.
and Pump Man both go into the Dead Side.
Yeah, they go to the Dead Side, and yeah. Rapture.
Thank you. So Rapture was a thing.
Good night.
And Rapture was a supernatural event that I was quite
Yes, it
optimistic about. And then it just didn't go anywhere. The same with stuff like Incursion and Valiant have done some great events like Divinity
Superb.
and Stalinverse, Divinity 3, Stalinverse.
Brilliant.
First Harbinger Wars and Armor Hunters, and they've done some really good events, and they've done some really nothing events that kind of, and I love Valiant, which makes it all the worse.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just, I want this to go somewhere. I want there to be a point, not just, and I don't want that point to be that they're going to bring Dark back from the dead.
You know it's coming.
Yeah, it's definitely happening.
The ever return. He was a tree for a while. Just leave
I
fucking tree. I just feel like all supernatural events kind of got to have a bit of Dead Side. Got to have Dark. If his sister can be there, have it. And we introduced the villain that is the villain to end all villains, like Babel was. And then nothing comes of it. They're defeated in 4 issues, and it's like they were never there. And we never mention Babel ever again. And
what happened to the abettors? Are they gone now?
They're still about.
They're still around. But, yeah, sort of. But they're like different now.
Okay.
But they still exist, sort of, in different ways.
It's a complicated thing with Valiant because I think every few years they go all in on a supernatural event. And I don't know if it brings in any new readers, but existing readers, us included, seem to just nod along, read it, and then you think, oh, this must have some kind of repercussion. And then either there's no Shadow Man afterwards, or there's no Ninjak, or there's no Eternal Warrior, or there's just no Fallout. And then the next time it comes up, maybe we'll get some sly nod where Ninjak will be like, hey, Jack, remember that time when you had a really sweet outfit and dreads, and we did that thing? And they'll be like, yeah.
See, I want Ninjak to team up with Gilad again. I always like a bit of Ninjak teaming up with Gilad. It pleases me.
I liked was it Fist and Steel? Where
Fist
they kind of go to a future in...
that was really cool.
Whatever it's called, Ninjak. Yeah. Original recipe, Matt Kint Ninjak.
That's it. The good Ninjak, some might say.
The best Ninjak, I would add. And the most, perhaps, it seems like a backhanded compliment, but the most consistent Ninjak.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at. It's not who did the best Ninjak run. It's who managed to keep doing good Ninjak for the longest. The same with Shadow Man. It's just who did Ninjak good for the longest time.
Yeah. That was it.
And I'm not sure anyone's done Shadow Man consistently good yet.
No one has.
Everyone seems to Was it Andy Diggle who just got bored, seemingly?
Yeah, Andy Diggle had all these plans, and Incursion was going to be a big thing, and there was going to be repercussions, and he was going to he had a 5-year plan, and then he left.
And those 2 Justin Jordan volumes were good, and then Peter Milligan took over, and
I had high hopes for that.
Was Justin Jordan the guy who was Kurt Angle's son? He was in with Chad Gable.
Jason Jordan. Jason Jordan was Kurt Angle's
There
son.
you go.
God,
Sorry, that's my
too
one
long for me to-
contribution in the last 10 minutes.
And credit to you, Matt. It made me think. Not good thoughts, but thoughts. So I don't know. I realised we need to wrap up this episode.
Shall we do our rankings?
Yeah.
I'm ready to do a rankings. And
Take it, Will.
Rankings.
Go.
Okay, 4th place is Rogues Gallery. I think we can all agree that it was imperfect, to be kind. I think at 3rd place, the top 3 are fairly close together. I think they all fall into a sort of good but not quite great category to varying degrees. But 3rd place, I would put Book of Shadows. I think it's all round solid, but it feels like a step into a world that I'm currently not up to date with. So isn't as inviting as some of the other number ones. I would put, I think, Blink as number 2, despite thinking it was the best art, and by the same artist as inevitably what I've put as number 1. I just think Above Snakes hits almost every marker like spot on, barring just that little bit of preference towards the art of Blink. But I think sort of the story's better, the colouring's better, or at least feels it in a single issue. So yeah, my number 1 is Above Snakes, and that's that.
Impressive speed.
Definitive.
I can go next unless someone else is chomping at the bit, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. I just know
it's
to say it.
champing at the bit, Zachary.
I thought it was chomping, to be fair.
It's champing, and you can edit me correcting you out. I just thought I'd do it to be funny.
Are we going to take Matt's word for anything? Here I am, ignoring Matt. I think Will is right, and 4 is Rogue Gallery. Pretty much because I don't know if it's going to become what it was advertised as. I really hope it does. And that I'm here in a month's time going, oh man, you guys should have all read Rogues Gallery 2, where it gets in keeping with its blurb. I like the character design. I don't think it's particularly badly written or arted. I just think it confuses me in ways. And whilst I think it might be dealing with some very relevant subjects, I'm not sure it's doing it in a completed way at the moment. I think it's going to take time to get its point across. 3, I'm going to go with Blink, kind of for a similar reason that I'm not entirely sure Blink knows where it's going either. The kind of ending cliffhanger feels like it could just run off with itself in a strange new direction, which if it does, sure, sweet. If it doesn't, sure, sweet. I'm happy either way. I don't know what I'm going to get, and I'm curious, but sure, whatever. We'll see, I guess. Again, Chris Sabella's writing, I think, is good, and I think Hayden Sherman's art is really solid in it. So sweet. Also, colouring, lettering in both of these things is also great. Whatever, Angela, stop nodding at me. 2, and this is massively with the benefit of the doubt for Book of Shadows, that this has got a point. I really want it to have a point. I thought Dead Side War and Punk Mambo and Shadow Man and all those things were setting us up for an established villain to do a thing with the Book of Shadows, and instead I'm getting some random Hellboy Hellraiser dude rocking up with his magic book, who apparently has been fighting Gilad off screen. I don't know when. You guys don't know when. Cullen Bunn doesn't know when. And we're gonna get a flashback. You can taste the flashback. You can sense it in the air that we're going to get a flashback to when Gilad could have finished him off, and Fane's going to be all like, "You should have gone for the head, kid." I don't know. But I know it's coming. I just don't know if it's going to be next issue or issue 3 or the last issue, but whatever. I thought this was going somewhere that was like a straight line from Dead Side War.
No.
Why is Gilad never with the Geomancer? They're like a thing.
Yes, I meant to bring that up because we know where the Geomancer is now.
Yeah,
as of the last issue of
not
Armor.
here.
Like, where the hell's Gilad? Gilad, do your bloody job. Do your job.
Also, just to shoehorn this in, remember when Kay McHenry came back from the dead and she was going to have a spin-off series called Deathmate with Agent Festival, but instead they just flew off 5 years ago? I remember.
Yeah,
Never
sort of
forgive,
remember that.
never forget.
Number 1 is Above Snakes. It's good. It's really good. It ticks all the boxes. Now I feel like Matt's going to turn up and be like, "It's actually tickling all the foxes" or some shit. But
No. I'm going to let you make your own mistakes look silly.
that's someone else's joke I've stolen, so I'm sorry whoever I've stolen that joke from, but still. I think Sean I'm so distracted. I think Sean Lewis is good at writing. I think his book last year, Bliss, was one of my favorites of the year, and I feel like this could also go that way in just a Western sense rather than a fantasy drug sense. Coloring good, lettering good, arting good.
Oh, so it's European.
It is sure, whatever. I feel like that's a reference that most people
That's
probably don't
literally just
remember.
for you, me, and your partner.
Yeah. It's crept into the show before. But yeah, Bull Snakes is the best book. Fight me. Well, the only person who's going to have to fight me here is Angela, because she's the only one that's going to disagree. But
speaking of which, Angela.
Oh, damn it. Right. Number 4's Rose Gallery. It just is. We're all agreed, unless Matt suddenly decides that Rose Gallery is home. Which he might
Number
be.
1, baby.
But if he thinks it's less than number 4, then he's just wrong. It's confusing. It makes no sense with the blurb. I don't like any of the characters in it, even though there are attempts to elicit my sympathy. The art's good. Lettering's good. I did find there was quite a lot of dialogue that I could have done without. So yeah, that's number 4. Number 3, I'm going to go with Blink, because I was also confused by that. Like, I had to read it a couple of times before I realized, and then I had to read the blurb as to quite where the story was going. It seemed to set itself up as like a horror sleep paralysis demon thing, which I was totally on board with. And then it turned into mystery box in old houses. Which is fine, but it's just not my bag. It was meh for me. And now we have a battle between the heart and the head. Because the heart knows what it wants, and the head knows that the heart is catastrophically wrong. So, in a move that will probably shock everyone to the core, I've got to put Book of Shadows at number 2. Purely because I know.
It's the end of days.
It's not good. Because
I think this is perhaps our last episode.
I mean, I love it dearly, don't get me wrong. But like Zach, I have been burned before. I want and also I want it to be good, and I think it's a really good team up. I think it's one of the best team up books that Valiant, issue 1 of a team up book that Valiant have done for some time. I think it works, but I don't know how it's going to shake out, and I'm a little bit like, it's like, Dr. Mirage and Punk Mambo show up, and Punk Mambo's like, yeah, we've hired Gilad. And it's like, you couldn't have, shown that. You couldn't have maybe maybe, I don't know, put a flashback in there, have him show up and do something. It feels like he's kind of all on his own because, hey, I've invented this new villain for him that he totally fought at some point. I'm not entirely sure when. I'll get around to explaining that, as Zach says, in a flashback. And I just feel like it needs to push itself a little bit more. Dr. Mirage doesn't really do much. She's there and she's like, these people's souls are gone. It's very sad. And I feel like she needs to do more. I'm hoping she will do more. And also the fact that, like Zach says, this was absolutely perfect coming off of Deadside War to have the main villain be a villain from Shadow Man's past, or even, Persephone is the mortal representation of the dead side. Maybe something went wrong in her creation and something else was created evil that could go for the Book of Shadows. But then it's like, here's this random villain you've not heard of before, but I'm going to pretend. I mean, if I was reading this as a newbie, I might think, oh my God, I need to look up where Fane fought Gilad in an earlier run and then be catastrophically disappointed that it doesn't exist. So, yeah, although I love it dearly, and if my heart had the choice here, that would be number one, logically, the head has to put it at number 2. Because above Snake... Now, having said that... having said that, Above Snakes is very good. It has good art, it has the best lettering, it has the best colouring for me, and it has the best writing. But having said that, how is that going to shake out long term? Like, it reads a bit like a full story, which is good. I like that it does that. But it's like, is it just going to be like a Western he's just going to wander the plains with his possible bird that's in his head telling him to kill people? I don't know. So that's got problems. That it's like they've got the opposite problems. Book of Shadows has got the problem in that it has to have a lasting impact of some sort, and it has to work as a... I know Will shaking his head, but it has to work as an event.
There are no lasting impacts.
No, there are in Valiant. Gen Zero's still dead, damn it.
It's Mexico City now.
Never forgive, never forget. But that has to do that. But Above Snakes is now faced with having to do a second issue that matches up to that first one, which feels like a complete story. So to be honest, I could put that at number 2 purely for that reason. So really what I've done is I've not actually ranked them, I've just explained things. I think we can all agree Rose Gallery is the worst. And that's all I'm going to say now, but Book of Shadows is still my number 1 love. So I've kind of fudged it.
Your moral choice.
I feel like Angela's managed to cheat somehow, but I don't know how.
Yeah, I feel hard done by, but I can't quite put my finger on it.
So I'll round us off. Number 4, Book of it's Rogues Gallery. I'm giving this one a lot more credit than I think any of the rest of you. But it should have been an OGN. I'd still want it broken up in kind of the issue structure way, but it should have been an OGN. I kind of don't... I get why it opened this way, but it kind of needed not to, almost, to really sell itself. Number 3 is Book of Shadows. I just didn't care enough. Really, and again, that's just because I don't have much of a connection to Shadow Man. I never have. He had a cool Dreamcast game, but
did he though?
It's not that. When there's an advert in here that refers to it as a genre-defining classic, I'm just like, yeah, the genre of games called Shadow Man. It's yeah. It was fine. It's like good. It's more than good enough. But I just didn't come out desperate for more. Number 2 is Blink. It's a cool premise. It has a lot of potential. I want to see what they do with it. And it does some good stuff. Like you said, Angela, like some of its strongest stuff is in its writing of relationships, and of also mental health stuff. Number 1 though is Above Snakes. It's pretty cool. It's got colors sometimes, and other times it has less colors. And it has guns and people being hit with planks in the face, floorboards in the face.
10 out of 10.
And there's reflections in knives. That's pretty cool. But in all seriousness, though, it's Above Snakes. It's pretty good. As far as the first issue goes, and just kind of wonder how it goes next.
I think it's the first time in a long time that we've agreed, at least on 4 and 1.
Yes.
Across the board.
Well, to be fair, it was going to be easy for us to agree with Angela on 1 because she had 2 books for it.
Exactly.
I'm not saying she
Everyone would
cheated,
agree.
but
Look, if I want to game the system sometimes. That's
sometimes
the kind
you
of
need
person
to.
I am.
I think I've referred to 2 books as being in 3rd place before. So does that bring us to a close then?
I think it does. I guess we'll be back again next week for something or other. I don't know what the
Possibly
episode's going to be.
Spy X Family or Spy Family or Spike's Family.
Spy Times Family.
Yeah, Spy
By
Cross Family.
multiplied by family.
Yeah.
Family.
Spy by Family.
That is a possibility. It could be that. So keep tuned.
Yes, keep tuned to.
Tune your radio to this podcast.
Catchphrase, keep tuned.
I think that's us. I don't really have anything else to say.
Me neither.
So we've been Angela, Matt, Will, and Zach collectively bigger than capes. And remember that comics are bigger than capes.